What is up, YouTube? Welcome to our tutorial video on summoning. This is going to be a whole series. We're going to go and explain everything, how summonings work, and what the difference is between them and their interactions and their effects on the game.
I am also here, but I will let Michael cover most of the discussions on this. I'm just more here for the recording and some input on things. But he's like a really good expert at teaching people how to do stuff like this. I'm terrible with words.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to establish is normal summoning, and what that means is if your monster is level 4 or lower, you just summon it in attack position. You cannot summon it in face-up defense position unless you have a card that states otherwise, because normal summoning means summoning it in face-up attack position. If you want a monster to be in defense for your normal summon, you would do set. You do a normal set, and setting is also takes up your normal summon for the turn. And after you set, it brings us to another form of summoning. If your monster lives and it's still face down, there's something called a flip summon. And what a flip summon is you flip it into face-up attack position. You cannot flip it into face-up defense position. You have to flip it in face-up attack position.
And I have it highlighted over Scorkerback Joker because he is a level 4 and he is normal summonable. There's other ways to summon him, and we'll cover that a little bit later.
Yes. Next thing, that's basically all there is for basic normal summoning. If a card is level 4 or lower and can't be normal summoned or set, it'll be stated otherwise. But otherwise, you just follow those rules. The next thing is tribute summoning. Tribute summons are also considered normal summons, although you have to sacrifice a monster in order to summon them. And levels 5 and 6, you have to tribute one monster. Like in this example, we have the Summon Skull. He requires one monster for tribute summoning. The next, if you have a level 7 or higher, it requires 2 tributes to summon it, unless stated otherwise. So Dark Magician, Blue Eyes, White Dragon, Red Eyes, Black Dragon, all those require 2 tributes in order to normal summon or set them. Pretty simple so far in terms of game mechanics. Then next thing we're gonna cover is ritual summons and special summons in general. So special summons are they have their own categories, and it's broken down into a lot of different things. If you're using a spell or a trap card in order to special summon something, that is not an inherent summon. An inherent summon is something that requires no other help to bring out. Like what we have down here in the sideboard, we have Chaos Sorcerer, because him banishing a light and a dark is not a effect, it's just a cost of summoning. Same thing with Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon, Stardust Dragon, Utopia, Detail Talker, and all monsters of the same type, except for Chimera Tech. Because Chimera Tech is its own unique thing, because how you bring this out is something called contact fusing. And contact fusing just means that you don't use polymerization to summon a fusion monster. You use it in order to... You just have to have the materials out on the field.
Another note of contact fusing is that if your opponent Book of Moons your Cyber Dragon, assuming it is a named Cyber Dragon, actual Cyber Dragon card, you can reveal the Cyber Dragon and contact fuse it with your opponent's face-up machine monsters or your own machine monsters. Contact fusing follows its own rules that were established a really long time ago, before anyone really understood, or before I feel like Konami understood where they were going with the whole game mechanics.
Yeah. Another form of inherent summoning is pendulum summoning. So pendulum summoning for the newer players is when you have a pendulum monster like Skulkerbat who has a scale of 8, which it says right there on the picture, and another one that has a lower scale, or a higher scale. You can pendulum summon in between those two things. So if your scales were 1, 1, and 8, you could special summon any number of monsters from your hand or one monster from your extra deck, assuming your extra monster zone is open to the field whose levels are 2 through 8 or 2 through 7.
So on my screen, there's an example of Metal Foe's Gold Driver and Metal Foe's Volflame. Their scales are 1 for Gold Driver and 8 for Volflame. When you put them in the pendulum zones, which are back in the spell and trap zones, that take up 2 spaces on either side of them, you summon between, like you said, 2 and 7. So you could pendulum summon Skulkerbat Joker from your hand or extra deck. If it comes from your extra deck, it has to go to the extra monster zone or a zone that's being pointed to by a link monster.
And this is also considered an inherent summon because you're not actually using an effect to summon those monsters.
It is not a resolution. It is not a resolution of a card effect activating.
Yes. All right. The next thing we're going to talk about is non-inherent summons. This includes monsters who have effects to special summon themselves, ritual monsters, and fusion monsters that require a spell card to bring them out, like Flame Swordsman and Polymerization. Flame Swordsman with Polymerization, if you have the materials, is not considered an inherent summon, because an inherent summon means that you're not using another card to bring them out, you're just summoning them. So Flame Swordsman, and that's relevant because there are things that only hit inherent summons, like Black Horn of Heaven and Solemn Strike. In terms of special summonings, those only hit inherent summons, like the Chaos Sorcerer, Stardust, Utopia, Decode Talker, and our Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon. It cannot hit the Flame Swordsman or the Reverend Slayer that we have, or the True King, or any of the level 9 True Kings that special summon, because they are effects to special summon themselves.
But Solemn Strike can hit the True King's effect to try and summon itself, because it does cover monster effect.
Yeah, but for
once the monsters hit the field, you've missed your opportunity.
Yeah. But for Black Horn of Heaven, for example, you cannot hit the True King.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that about covers basic summonings. There are other cards that special summon, and then all you have to really do is follow the rules on the text. Like Call the Haunted special summons one from your graveyard, and it has to be in face-up attack position. Also, unless a card, I forgot to mention this in any generic special summoning, but unless a card states otherwise, you must special summon in face-up attack position or face-up defense position. You cannot special summon it in face-down defense position unless the card states so. And, yeah, I think that's basically it. The only thing I can say is that, like, yeah, but I think that's it for summonings as a whole. It's a pretty simple game mechanic, and it just felt like we should start somewhere simple for our first video.
So, on the True King thing, though, how you determine that it is in effect resolving is that it says if this card is in your hand, and then it has the little, what is that dot thing called?
A colon.
A colon. Man, I'm terrible at this. If anything before the colon has to happen like that, then you can assume that it is not inherent. Because as you can see with Summoner Monk, it's just all really one thing that happens. Or not Summoner, but Chaos Sorcerer. Man.
Yeah.
I am terrible.
Yeah. But I think that about covers it. I think we covered all the basics. We've covered flip summoning. We covered normal summoning in forms of tribute summons and in just regular normals. And we've covered all the difference between inherent and non-inherent special summons. So this is our video on summonings.
This is lesson 1.
Yeah. If you have a friend and you want to teach them how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, keep them, introduce them to the series that we're going to be doing, because next video we're probably going to be talking about, I don't know what we're going to be talking about, honestly, but we're going to be talking about maybe spells and traps.
Spells and traps, and I believe we'll eventually cover the damage step, because that's like a huge thing that even experienced players who play the game a lot still don't understand to this day. I mean, that one's a very interesting one.
We'll also cover the different phases. Also, something I forgot to mention about summoning is you can only conduct the summon unless stated otherwise during your main phase, but we'll get more into that when we cover the different phases and what they're for. So, until next time, YouTube, this is us signing out.
Later.